It's been a busy week in the Inland Northwest, so let's get you caught up with the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for being here with us. Over the next half hour, we'll take a look back at some of the news you might have missed from the past week. So let's get started with one of the biggest stories from the Inland Northwest.
This budget maintains and protects our core services and makes significant investments in education and healthcare.
There are increases in spending in the budget, most notably to special education programs and the conversion of an adult prison into a facility for those convicted as teens.
I think we're ready to sign this budget.
But a budget making up what the governor considered a $16 billion deficit over 4 years required tax hikes and cuts. Child care subsidies are being delayed. Colleges and universities will see reductions, along with most state agencies, from parks to the closure of a state prison. As far as the new taxes, legislators approved more than $9 billion in new revenue. Large and small business owners will pay more in business and occupancy taxes. The state's top investment earners will see higher capital gains tax rates. Electric vehicle manufacturers will face a new tax. Currently, only Tesla has to pay it, though. And the gas tax will go up 6 cents a gallon in July. While he signed the bills into law, Governor Ferguson did not exactly give the new taxes a ringing endorsement.
There are some revenues there that I think require a closer look to make sure there are not unintended consequences. So I would not be surprised if you see some changes beyond technical changes to those revenue streams in the supplemental budget.
The supplemental budget the governor mentioned there is something that is typically done 1 year after a budget is signed into law. But the governor made it clear there's a lot of uncertainty out there with the economy and potential federal budget cuts. So he says he will be looking at those tax increases and the general state economy over the coming months.
Senator Marcus Riccelli serves on the Senate Ways and Means Committee, which oversees 2 of the state's 3 major budgets. The operating budget is what funds most of government. The transportation budget manages funding for Spokane Public Transit and the Spokane Corridor project, which remains under the newly approved budget. Riccelli says the goal was to balance the budget while still protecting the state's most vulnerable populations by prioritizing funding in key areas. The approved budget also allocates funding for Maddie's Place, Alexandria's House, Salish School of Spokane, and the Spokane Police Training Facility.
I think a balanced, responsible budget is the way to go, that particularly one that doesn't hurt our most vulnerable and make sure that the key services are being funded, and some space for growing things like funding in education, housing, food assistance, healthcare.
Still, Riccelli is disappointed that funding for the Washington State University Team Health Building didn't make the cut. It supports future healthcare professionals in a simulated environment. He told us after the bill was signed in part, quote, "I appreciate the governor thoroughly reviewing and signing the budget bills that protect essential services."
Ready? Aim. It's a practice Jeremy Ball takes seriously. He's the owner of Sharpshooting Indoor Range and Gun Shop in Spokane.
Help people purchase firearms and train with firearms, and then also give them a place to recreationally shoot.
But Ball worries how many people will take up the same practice after Governor Bob Ferguson signed House Bill 1163 into law. Starting in 2027, Washingtonians interested in purchasing a firearm will be required to apply for a 5-year permit with Washington State Patrol. Under the law, the training needed to buy a gun will expand, and that training will include live fire training. Washington State Representative Liz Berry sponsored the bill, saying it'll help decrease statewide gun violence.
I know this bill, simply put, will save lives, and we couldn't have done it without all of the advocates here
It's work
today.
Representative Berry supports, but Ball worries what could happen when it takes effect.
It'll be impactful, absolutely, and it will negatively impact firearms owners.
The law requires 50 rounds of live fire training. Ball says for some, that isn't practical.
Just making the assumption that it requires 50 rounds of standard firearms usage, that is going to reduce the amount of places that people will be able to even complete these classes.
Ball's opinion is shared. The president of the Spokane Gun Club, Tom Nyewell, says the series of events the law requires are out of order.
I don't have a problem with people having to show that they can shoot. However, they need to have a way that if they want to buy a gun, that they can buy it, take the class, and then show that they can shoot.
As we're 2 years out from the law going into place, Ball hopes a different solution can be made.
all it's going to do is just add multiple redundant processes that the state has in order to obtain the gun.
We reached out to Washington State Patrol for comment on the new law. A member says they'll get back to us soon with a response. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
Well, Mayor Lisa Brown is now calling on the region's congressional delegation to step in and at least find out why nearly $50 million was rescinded.
This is a big blow.
Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown says she found out, like everyone else, late last week. The region's promised $48 million for aerospace advancement is now up in the air. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick announced 6 tech hubs awarded millions in federal grants will have to reapply if they want the money. More than 50 partners across Spokane and Coeur d'Alene were set to use the funds to set up an aerospace manufacturing center in Airway Heights.
We want to move forward, and if there is another process designed, we will be part of it. But I'm still asking the question of why.
KREM 2 News didn't hear back Monday from the Commerce Department, but Lutnick had said the grant process was rushed, unfair, and that President Biden promised funds that weren't actually there. He's revamped the competition, he says, but applicants must remove any references to Biden administration policy priorities, including those that contradict Trump's directives against diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I guess I would just say back to the secretary, the process of pulling back awards that have already been made is not very typical.
Mayor Brown says the planned American Aerospace Materials Manufacturing Center was already boosting the local economy. Its delay or potential loss could have severe impacts.
Getting to major contracts to expand manufacturing here, the tech hub work was part of that process.
Reactions are also pouring in from congressional delegates from Idaho and Washington. Congressman Michael Baumgartner called the decision disappointing, putting the entire project at potentially irreversible risk. A letter to Lutnick sent by Idaho and Washington senators urges him to rethink, calling the AAMMC a catalyst for the country and Pacific Northwest's manufacturing renaissance. The grant program is expected to reopen for applications this summer. Mayor Brown says she does believe the partnership will reapply. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Each weekend, we walk you through headlines from the past week in the Inland Northwest.
Just last year, the city of Spokane issued more than 1,400 residential permits. About 1,000 of those are multifamily units, like these new apartments built right next to Gonzaga University.
This rental house, affectionately called the 803, previously put a roof over 4 tenants.
Did you look at any other units?
But now, the property's new owner is taking steps to build up the city's housing supply.
This is one of our 4-bed, 2-bath units.
Building up and out.
It's probably my favorite unit, just because it's corner.
Aaron Farr turned this 4-bedroom house into apartments. The 803 can now house roughly 50 tenants.
It does feel good to bring more housing to the community. Good, safe, clean housing.
These new apartments are part of a record-setting year for housing permits in the city. Over the past 3 years, multifamily permits have more than doubled.
Yeah, that really surprises me. I didn't know that.
So what's driving the surge? The city credits recent zoning and housing policy reforms, like allowing multiple units on any residential lot, dropping parking requirements, and lifting height limits downtown.
Yeah, it's a positive story because it's really addressing an issue that we have here, the housing crisis.
Stephen McDonald is the city's Community and Economic Development Director. He says the work isn't done yet.
We need to continue to keep at this pace. One, because some of our housing stock is older and we want to be able to have newer housing stock here. And two, because for many years there wasn't a lot of building going on. So we're playing a little bit of catch up.
The city expects this year's total residential permits issued will be on par with last year's record. To keep up with this projected growth, the city added 4 positions to the Development Services Center.
The help there is to get quicker throughput in the plans that are coming in and be able to respond, to the marketplace more quickly.
Which is all good news for developers like Aaron.
All the incentives that they're offering and changing of zoning rules is good. It's good for builders and developers and people that want to create more housing. I think it's awesome.
Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
I wonder, is this going to cost us money?
A question Spokaneite Cherry Barnett asked city council members at Monday night's meeting on the topic of a Place Streets program that went unanswered. City council members unanimously passed an ordinance allowing a Place Streets program. With a special event permit, neighbors can prevent traffic from neighborhood blocks to allow community events. While a special event permit is required, city leaders say any permit and application fees do not need to be paid for any event free and open to the public. They emphasize it's a way to encourage more people to socialize during the warmer months.
I am very excited about this ordinance. I think that there's a lot of benefit to our neighborhoods for holding events.
This is just another way to help communities that we can make it easier for them to have community engagement.
Community Engagement Council President Betsy Wilkerson and City Council Member Paul Dillon support, but Council Member Michael Cathcart, while supportive of the ordinance, says there's work needing to be done.
It would ultimately, I think, necessitate a more public-facing engagement on this.
Right now, the ordinance passing means city leaders will need to develop program policies and procedures that go with this ordinance. Councilmember Cathcart says it's important to clarify in writing when it's okay to enter and leave an area of property and sending out proper notifications.
None of that's addressed in the ordinance and will presumably be done in that policy in the back room. And so hopefully some of that will be made public so that folks, neighbors, understand exactly how these work.
It's transparency Barnett agrees needs to happen now that the ordinance passed.
I think all those things have to be carefully considered, and if it's going to cost the public money, I'm against it.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week.
Yeah, if you pause and you listen for a second, you can hear the sound of excavators and heavy machinery chopping into the road. So we're in that season, construction time of the year. This is going to be a grind and overlay project. You can see some of that work has already begun. Washington and Stevens. And this is a project that has been taking place over the last few years, but this is now officially in the final phase. Again, grind and overlay Washington and Stevens in between Spokane Falls Boulevard. This is a continuation of the work you saw last year. Final phase now. Lane reductions are already in place and will be in place on both Stevens and Washington throughout the entirety of this project. Drivers should expect slower speeds and traffic delays. On southbound Stevens Street, work will start between Sprague Avenue and First. Or northbound Washington, work will be between Main Street and First Avenue. Another traffic alert for the day, this time for drivers towards East Central Spokane. Hartson Avenue between Freya and Havana Street will be closed as a part of a Safe Routes to Schools effort. A pedestrian improvement project begins this morning and will last until this Friday, May 23rd. Expect detours on 2nd to 3rd Avenue. As for that project here on Washington and Stevens, this is work that is expected to take place through the end of July. So if you use these roads, just go ahead, give yourself additional time to drive through, prepare for potential delays, and then also give crews the necessary space they need to operate in a safe fashion. One more quick note before I toss it back to you in the studio. Something else that the city of Spokane is stressing is that the businesses in this area, in between all of the road work, they're still open, so please make sure you're giving them that support as well. For now, reporting in downtown Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
Well, projects like this one right here behind me on Hartson Avenue are in the works for one specific reason: to make sure that kids coming to and from school are safe.
If you're driving around Freya and Hartson this week, you could possibly hear this as crews work on paving a new way for kids and community members to safely walk in Spokane's East Central neighborhood near Francis Scott Elementary School.
So schools are always a priority when we're looking for how can we enhance the pedestrian network.
Marlene Feist, the Public Works Director for Spokane, says while projects like this might cause problems for a few days, it's a long-term solution for future generations.
You know, this is part of our normal summer construction season. Bear with us. There's good things happening when we have construction. So you might be a little inconvenienced around Hartson this week, but it has a good outcome for our community, for our kids.
Right now, crews are working to put in things like sidewalks, curb extensions, and a new crosswalk on Hartson Avenue and Rebecca Street.
Them adding a sidewalk is a great idea.
Something Shakira Brune says is crucial in an area like that.
It's really busy down through there. Sometimes people don't stop when there is a kid trying to cross to catch the school bus. There's only 2 stop signs down there that way.
This is just one of 2 projects surrounding school safety. The other is happening at Stevens Elementary School, adding similar things to make walking routes safer. Funding for these 2 projects came from state and federal grants and were matched by local arterial street dollars.
We continually work with the school district and work with where we see in our pedestrian plan where there are missing sidewalks around things that are heavy pedestrian generators, especially for younger children like elementary schools.
The Scott Elementary Safe Routes to School project is expected to be completed in June, and the Stevens Elementary Walk Route is expected to finish in July.
It makes me feel great.
Christian Garza,
knowing that my kids can cross a busy street safely.
KREM 2 News.
Welcome back to the KREM 2 News, a week in review. I hope you're having a great weekend. Let's get back to one more story you might have missed this past week.
All right, well, you've got a new swimming and fishing dock that's right here behind me. A new ADA accessible kayak launch is here as well. And then there's some new picnic shelters over here as well. So these are just a couple of the new improvements that you can find here at the Liberty Lake Regional Park. At 11 a.m., there was a ribbon cutting ceremony here by Spokane County. And all of this started to really come to fruition back in 2018. As some background, this is a project that started to form then after a $50,000 anonymous donation helped develop the Liberty Lake Regional Park Master Plan. Spokane County Parks used the master plan to apply for grants with the Washington Recreation and Conservation Office. You go ahead, you fast forward a few years, construction begins in 2024, and today we had that official reopening. On top of those initial improvements we talked about, there's also new paved parking, new restrooms and shower areas, restored habitat areas, and enhanced lighting and accessibility. So again, this is already a beautiful environment. Now you just got some new and improved attributes that come along with the Liberty Lake Regional Park. But for now, reporting here in Liberty Lake, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
Keep it here for more news and weather updates throughout the weekend. And don't forget, you can watch our latest newscasts anytime on your schedule on KREM 2 Plus. Download and watch right now for free. I'm Cody Proctor. Thank you for watching KREM 2 News Week in Review.